I mean, Louis, it just makes me think back to the good old days at Center for Media Arts, CMA, yeah. Anyway, so good to see you, and welcome to in the audience. Pleasure, welcome to the program. An old friend of myself and of the world, I would say, is Louis Grenier. We met together some years ago when we were both doing work and working out of a place called the Center for Media Arts here in Manhattan. He's now, I guess I understand, at ABC, doing work in Louis. So good to see you again. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Harold.
No, you did before. We've done another program with you, but you did before share a little bit of your own background. I wish you could do that again because people might have seen that. And then we want to get into talking. You're also an actor, and you're a writer, and you're a filmmaker, but you're also a technically oriented television producer. Emmy Award winning. You were part of a thing there. So, but share your own background, and we'll talk about the state of television, multimedia, and your own position in that, and some of the opportunities and challenges we see.
Sure. Well, I've been in New York 30 years. I'm from Chicago, and I basically, for the last 20 years in New York, I've been working in technical aspects of television. I work at ABC right now. I've been here 11 years. I do a lot of editing and recording and playback to air, on-air operations.
Okay.
And I also shoot my own short videos and some animation, some live action, and I write, perform sometimes in them, and I'm building material on that now.
Okay, that's good. We'll get back to CMA days and all that sort of thing. But at ABC, that's a major network, national feed. It's very important what's going on there. And so forth. Could you share with us and the general society, who we just see what's coming over from one of the major networks, and now we've got 500 of them with the cable, but the established networks, Mr. Goldstein and that, ABC, NBC, CBS, how many are involved? How does it work? How carefully do you monitor that? How do we get those programs that are done? And I never see even a nanosecond of black or anything like that. They do it with such alacrity and so well. And I suppose you and some of your partners over there are responsible for making sure it's so seamless and so professional.
Right. Well, seamless is a good word because it is a continual flow into your eyeballs from these images and audio, and it's not interrupted. Usually, there are errors sometimes, but it is very precise and exact, and it's a whole workflow. And people have specific job duties, and that makes it more like of a well-oiled machine that's working, hopefully, tightly. And it's much different than this here at Public Access, which I enjoy also here.
This is seat of your pants fly right there.
Right. And there's more breathing room here, and it's got a little more latitude. It's a little more open, which can give a lot of benefits that network TV can't. And
it can
of course,
also give you gray hairs because it's not working with such precision with all those people in the booth knowing exactly. It would be like in a spaceship going to the moon. You want to have that all working really right.
Yes, you do. Yes.
You don't want to have glitches or.
Yeah.
But I understand. Yeah.
Right.
How many people are? If you got a national feed, say something that's really going out to the whole country, and I don't know, there's probably local programming also. I don't know how it works, but how many people are there in the room that is actually involved with getting that program on the network air? Well,
there's a lot of people ask me that just because, Dancing with the Stars was on, and that's a big show, and people don't understand, like that's produced in L.A., like they're shooting a show live in L.A., so there's a whole thing going on there, and then that feed is coming to New York and being broadcast on the East Coast live, and then usually if there's an error in the show, a mic is closed, or something happens, or there's a zip pan and they want to repair it, then there's fix-up machines, and you can fix the error and then play that back 3 hours later to the West Coast. So the actual production is on the West Coast, and the commercials are rolled to air from the East Coast, which we do at ABC on the East Coast. A lot of people just think it comes from one source, like it's just. And they forget that much of the programming is delayed by 3 hours for the West Coast.
Yeah, that's all got to be taken into account.
Yes,
in a systems way.
Right, and there's a mountain feed, and there's a Midwest. There's different feeds within the country that go out at different times. I have my own concept about this because I've always wondered, like, there's these. in the East Coast feed, there'll be errors in programming, like when I worked on GMA or whatever. Sometimes there'll be slight errors that are always
GMA?
Good Morning America.
Oh, Good Morning America,
And-
right, okay, right. Okay.
And then they're fixed. The fixes are made for the West Coast. So I was wondering, like, everybody in L.A., maybe that's why they have that la-la attitude, because they never see, everything they receive is pristine.
Yeah,
it has
right.
no errors in it. Everything's just
Well, that's
fine.
what you would want to have, right? That's
Right,
what
but-
you would want to have.
Yeah, but
Uh,
you know, there's some isn't
joy
there
to
something
glitches,
like there's
yeah.
something like a mistake. A mistake is sometimes a blemish on a face sometimes adds to the beauty of the face, right? That kind of an attitude, like it gives it a humanness or
It seems a little bit
human
more like
quality.
real time.
It's not so antiseptic or
authentic. It gives an authenticity
maybe
to
good
it.
word. It's
Yeah, but anyway, I understand.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they're orchestrating a whole lot of people. You got people
Yes.
all over, and then who's at the head? They have somebody like if you have a philharmonic orchestra, there's somebody directing the orchestra.
Right.
Who's directing the television feed of these major networks like that? And how is that all orchestrated? How many people are involved, and so forth? And who orchestrates to make sure all of that stuff is done? How much are you able to utilize automation
Right.
in order to get things done with that and everything? Could you sort of set us straight?
Well, there's many people involved, and there's different departments, and there is a lot of automation, but there's also real time. When you shoot production, there's no way to get around it. That's real time.
Yes,
so you got to do that. Then
it's
a
like
lot.
what we're doing here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But then it's used to be much heavily tape-based, videotape-based, and now it's going to servers, which
Everything's
are hard
going
drives, computers, which store information and then play it out.
Right.
But that you really that gives a big advantage to a network because before, like, we used to take promos or commercials and they'd be on videotape, and many editing sessions would be putting those into programs for air. And now, when a tape comes in-house, let's say a commercial, it's put into an automation system on a server just once. And once it's in there and categorized and has a duration and the client and the title, all of that input, now all that server can feed broadcasting at different parts of the day. You don't have to physically edit that piece into all the different programming. So that really added a lot less manpower and made it much more easy to get it there, as long as there's not errors. But it facilitated that a lot more.
So it brings it into the realm. That's happening digital.
That's all digital.
Digitalization of everything now.
Yeah.
And then the computer skills and the programming skills of people from the cyber world and so forth begin to apply within that realm also.
Yes.
So there's a bridging of those two things.
Yes. Yes.
Now, who is it? You have a programmer. You have people who are programmers in the computer realm. You would have people who could take advantage and know how to make those servers all work, sit up and dance like Fred Astaire.
Yes. Yes, the servers.
And who is that? Is it a director of programming, or who takes charge?
Well, there's technical people that would come in and install and design software for a system. Usually, could be outside people as vendors doing that work.
Right.
And then there's operators that input the commercials and promos into the system itself. There's tech managers also within departments
to make sure the machines
that oversee the operation and the flow of that information on those machines. And then there's just so many positions. I mean, in the control room, you have a director, assistant directors, technical directors.
Okay, let's talk about that. That's when you're producing something, right?
Yes, like here you have.
Like here, you do. So, how many people you're in a let's say you're making a Good Morning America, you're saying.
Oh,
something.
yeah.
Or when I watched CNN the other night, they had a real important night, Super Tuesday or something, and they were there, Wolf Blitzer on camera and everything was, and they were bouncing all over the country with not nary a glitch. And how do you know that Pittsburgh's coming in here and that they're ready to go? And who keeps track of all that, like a composer, a conductor of an orchestra? Is it the director?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny that you would notice that, because sometimes when things go so well, that's when people, once I had a teacher that said ballet, kids snicker at ballet because because a good dancer does it so well,
Yes.
you don't know. But then if
Yeah.
you try to do that leap or that move, it would be, you see the difficulty.
Don't say me. I would be
Or
lost
anybody,
in it.
yeah.
I would have no idea which to push. It would be like a comedy with Keystone Cops, you know.
Right.
But because those people are really skilled at that. But how many people are in the control room
Well,
on a
look,
major
let's see, a
production?
control room would have a director.
And he'd be the is he like the,
the director is
conductor of an
calling.
orchestra?
Well, the director, yes, in a way, the director is calling the shots, which cameras and which graphics to take, or which roll-ins for videotapes. So you'd have you have a director, and then you have an assistant director who's usually timing things or helping setting up, setting up camera shots,
Right.
something like that. And then you have a technical director who's actually physically switching from camera to camera,
Right.
or whatever. Then you have producers, you have assistant producers, you have writers, makeup people, you have camera operators.
But there would be a place called a control room.
That's a control.
Is
That's
how
a production
big a room
control
is that?
room. That's a production
You're
control
going to
room.
make Good Morning America. It's a national feed.
Yeah.
And you got a room. How many people are in that room and are doing putting that program out? Would there be 10? Would there be 20? Would there be 200?
Well, there maybe be 10 people in the room,
10.
but there's
And
a
they're
lot
all
of ancillary
pros.
people. You know, there's people working that
Behind them. Right.
writing news or doing updates.
Yeah,
and things
okay,
like there's
sure,
writers,
right.
and then there's a production assistants and like the GMA was actually, even though ABC is on the Upper West Side, you know, 66th and Columbus, they also have the studios are in the Times Square studios downtown. You know that on 44th Street when you walk by?
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
So that's actually,
Yeah.
so here they're shooting that in that studio,
Right.
and then through lines is fed to the control rooms all in the Upper West Side studio,
Right.
and so there's communications back and forth, and it goes out to air. It goes out, broadcast
And it seems
to air.
it goes so seamlessly.
It's so, yes.
And then
hopefully,
you never see,
there's error,
you never see an error. I mean, it's one ad comes right after the other. There's no black
Yes.
ever. You can't have 20 seconds of black. It would be disaster.
Right.
Because you're
Yes.
missing an ad, and there's a lot of money involved,
Yes.
I guess, and all of that. And you have market discipline in a sense. Because
Yes.
if somebody doesn't measure up to professional needs and alertness at being able to switch the right switch right at the right time, they could be replaced by somebody who would have learned that capability.
Yes, yes,
So
it's
there's a
very
great deal of
competitive that way.
keeps it that way.
Yes.
Does it apply also to the multi-channel? I mean, we got something 500 channels, cable channels.
Cable
now.
channels, yeah.
You get into cable news, and I was amazed that night I was watching the election return. It was just seamless, and they were all over the country, and they would in 10 seconds this and that, and it was just amazing to me. How did they put all that together? It was amazing to me with such skill.
Yeah.
and so professionally.
Well, you know what? Something I've known you were talking about the black between like commercials.
Yeah.
Like when commercials, let's say, are 30 seconds. Sometimes a client or a commercial might come in that's 30 seconds and a few frames. You know, there's 30 frames in a second, so it might be a little over. But they actually cut that because if you let that build up over a 24-hour period, that accumulates a lot of time.
Yeah, and
it's
that's
also
lost
like
time for revenue.
I somehow appreciate like a few beats of black between a show and programming.
Yeah.
But sometimes they butt things up so close together because it permits more. You know what I'm just thinking of? I mean,
What you're thinking of?
Genetically, there was something with oranges where they could genetically engineer these oranges to be square.
Yeah.
And I went,
They
why?
fit in a box.
Because you could fit in a
Yes,
boxcar.
right. They did
and
the
all
same
that,
thing with tomatoes.
all that little area
Yeah.
is wasted space if
Right.
you can. And in broadcast TV, like if you have just half a second of black between numerous commercials throughout the day, if you add up that black, there could be maybe 5, 10, 20, 30 seconds, another room for another commercial.
Right, and that means big
and
money.
I don't think that way, but that's kind of how program or the finance
The
people
business guys
think,
particularly,
like how much to squeeze out, which sometimes there is no breath to take. I think I missed that. It's too butted up against one another. But that I'm very aware of that. Yeah.
And you do technical stuff. What do you do at ABC?
Well, I edit.
Yeah.
I edit commercials into shows, or I'll take in satellite feeds. I record shows, play shows back to air. I ingest commercials into an automated system for the I don't want to use the brand name, but a commercial system for, which is the server system.
Yeah. It's computers now.
Yeah.
Going, yeah. So you keep your hand pretty busy. You go in, you know what you're going to do when you walk in the door?
We have
or do you have a worksheet or things for you to do?
Yeah, there's a big board.
And who gives you the worksheet? Yes. Who does that? Is that the director?
Well, that's interesting. Well, scheduling is done the day before.
Right.
And there's a big board with a light behind it. And that's one thing that I kind of like about my job, because I don't have direct supervision, but I come in, I have my assignments or jobs to do, and then I do them.
And it always makes sense to you? Or does it have to make sense to you?
Well,
do you ever say,
sometimes.
why the hell do you want me to do that? I'll do it. I don't know why, but I'll do it, but I don't know why. Or do you have a picture of the whole picture?
Well, that's funny. Yeah,
or
sometimes.
Not? Or does it matter if you do?
Well, the boundaries of lines between people are very blurry.
Yeah.
Like when I work with assistant directors, they have I always say, you know, it's your call. What they say goes. But very often when people will say no, you know, like I could have a suggestion that would help them, or they could have a suggestion that will help me. So that's what you want. You want to get the product to air. It's not so much about who's right, who's wrong.
No.
And that's another thing, you know, personalities, working with people.
Or
like
do you have to know the whole picture in order to do one part of it?
It helps. You know, it helps.
It does help if you've got the picture. It helps if you see the whole picture. That's interesting. That does help. Somehow knowing that makes your piece, how it fits in, more logical. Yeah. And that's generally a good state of mind to be in if you're doing something. You like to know where it fits and everything you can.
Right.
And there's a lot of people involved. I heard you say before, it's getting more automated. The process is becoming with the servers and the digital developments and so forth. I heard you say that you need fewer people. Is that a tendency? Did they used to have more people to make sure it worked right?
Yes, yes, they did. Yeah, many more. From what I heard from people who have been in the industry for many years back, you know, roomfuls of people editing and things like that.
Rip and read.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Well, teletype and
I mean, radio stations now, don't they have one person or no?
They do.
It's all programmed.
Clear Channel just does everything from one place. And it's all automated.
It's all automated.
Yeah.
Which
has advantages and
saves us money, you know, makes money, but boy, there's I don't know if there's a heartbeat to it.
Right. Well, that's another issue. Well, here we don't have to worry about that because we're all doing a voluntary here in public access. That's a whole different breed of cat and everything like that. And you learned your skills. You learned your skills in Chicago before you came to New York? You picked them up after you got here? Well, what did you study in university, that sort of thing?
Well, Southern Illinois University, where Bucky Fuller.
At Carbondale?
At Carbondale.
Oh, boy, that's where Buckminster Fuller was ensconced. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I got a degree in cinema and photography.
Oh, you did? Okay,
and when I came to New York, I did video. I got some of those, like we talked earlier, the Portapack from DCTV, the little black and white half-inch Portapacks.
I remember it well. Yeah, that was the first time an individual could make television, and it was Mr. who is it? Goldstein? No, not Goldstein. It was who was the director? It'll come to me in a minute. But he invented videotape. There was no videotape before a certain period. And then they invented videotape, and then the developments all came for an individual. They used to have Ampex, great big 2-inch machines and everything the networks would use. But then they had
the helical scan tape.
Peter Goldmark Sr. invented videotape. He had an assistant Bonnie we did a program with.
Oh, okay.
And that opened up a whole realm because you had videotape, not film, because everything had been filmed before that.
Right.
I did a program, if I may digress a little minute, with a person named Elmer Berger. Really nice guy, older gentleman now. But Elmer Berger was a young man out of Brooklyn, and he ended up sort of as office boy or something like that. He was there young, and it was for the CBS television, right? And he was there, and he was the first person, this is interesting lore of the old days, because he was the first person ever, Louis, to stand with a microphone in front of a camera as what you would call a newscaster, right? He was the first person ever to do that, 1946. Wow. And it was for CBS, and nobody cared at CBS about this thing television because it was all radio. Everything was radio. And you know what they used to call those people?
No.
They called them visualizers. So he's going to visualize for radio-tuned people Now we've got a map, and the map and he had to
I like that visual. It's like French, you know, like the editor in editing is montage.
Yeah,
you know?
right. Yeah,
here it's not the reporter visualer. Yeah,
because they were introducing this visual component to the news, and nobody wanted to have anything to do with it, because everybody was coming from radio, and they sort of thought that way about cable when it came along too. The network people did.
Right.
In a way. It's interesting. Just
right.
That. But anyway, so you studied that early, is film and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
At Carbondale, took a degree in that?
Yes.
Okay, and then you came to New York?
Came to New York.
Okay, and then...
My first job in technical television was at the United Nations TV.
Oh, really? Okay.
And because they videotape all the General Assemblies and all those proceedings. And then I worked for a series of like...
When would that have been?
That was in 1979.
That's pretty early.
So that was pre.
It's
all relative.
Like that was pre-Turner.
Jurassic period. Yeah.
You think geologically like that. But you've always been in the media business, or in the video,
yes,
and on the side of production and technical and that sort of thing.
And still photography. I remember when I was younger, I love the still photography.
You still do that, or the digital?
A little bit. You know what my digital video camera has a still memory stick capability, and I use that quite often.
I know.
And I use that in my video because sometimes I'll use that and put that in the final cut when I do the nonlinear editing. Because everything doesn't have to be motion.
I know.
Some shots don't need or require motion.
Isn't it wonderful, the nonlinear? And just like people might not be aware of that, but if you you have word processing in the computer realm, and do you remember whiteout?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Remember you used to do whiteout? You tape it. That's how you can do a letter. It's really important. I mean, you made an E instead of an I or something. You have to type the whole damn page over again, or try to whiteout or something.
Somebody invented whiteout or something. Do you know about that?
I don't know. I don't know about that.
I think one of the guys from the Monkees, remember his mother, there's some nuance about that. But
that's where you could make it, try to cover an error on the typescript, but if you weren't able to do that sufficiently, suppose the letter's going to the president, or something is really important, you have to type the whole page over, but you could do work. Now it's the same with television, because you used to have to do linear, everything had to be strung out, and then now you can go back and you can it just makes that's a whole nother capability.
It's almost like you don't appreciate it.
We didn't have that when we were at CMA.
No.
There was no nonlinear.
Oh, no, there was not. No, it was all tape-based, and you had to put it in sequence, and then if you wanted to take out this shot, you had to go back and re-edit everything from that point forward.
Like with the word processing.
Because you can't, now it's all, you can change durations, move things around.
It's wonderful.
It's wonderful, but I sometimes wonder if you don't. It is wonderful, but you know what comes to mind is like some still photographers that are purists that'll use an 8x10 camera that you have to lug her around and set up a shot in Utah of something. You're going to be pretty damn sure that you're going to get a good shot. Where maybe, do you think, if you have these digital cameras, which they snap off and you just delete them if you don't like them, there's actually sometimes maybe you think less care in the shot, because it's so disposable, and it's so
that's a metaphor maybe for human society.
It could be, So maybe I sometimes think of that with all the equipment we have. That's so wonderful, but is it being used? I mean, do you still write a script? You still need a. I mean, I just read something like a lot of writers don't use computers; they'll still handwrite. A writer I just listened to said that sometimes you get hooked up on which font to use, or doesn't this look nice? There can be distractions in the sophistication of the technology. Right?
I think on the whole, my own sense is that there is this capability emerging as a net good thing, but it is complicated. It used to be easier to make a horse pull a cart than it was to learn how to make a stick, and then automobiles, and the progress is like that.
It's funny how progress is. But then there's it goes ahead, but then there's like 2 steps backwards. I mean, I have my own personal, like we at work, we used to have routers, which were analog routers, and you punch in a number, and you take it, and then you'd have a flip-flop, like the previous number would go back, so you could just hit take, and they would flip-flop. Now with some digital routers, you have to put in zeros preceding the number.
Really?
Like it wouldn't be just 18; it would be 0, 1, 8. Well, that's an extra move for your finger, and also then it clears the previous one, so it doesn't flip. So now it's a digital router, and there are a lot of the purity of the signal is cleaner and the resolution is better, but some things will go backwards sometimes.
Again, a metaphor for a lot of technological development where it advances like that kind of thing. And on the whole, it's really important that we get those things right, because I heard you say it's going to be displacing. I do a lot of thinking about economic theory and geopolitical strategy that's informed by economics and that sort of thing. And Lord Keynes said that he thought, Lord Keynes, the great economist who set up, all of the things that happened in Bretton Woods and everything like that, he wrote a letter to his grandchildren. He said he was a great economic theorist, an economist, brilliant. And he said, you are going to be, to the grandchildren, he wrote in 1930, and he said, you are going to be afflicted with something that's hard to really see now, but, and again, he's talking to his grandchildren, be about now. He said, we're going to have massively induced technological unemployment. That so many things like Mr. Ford's assembly line, where you took 8 hours a day turning a nut or doing something like that because you just didn't have any other way to do it, is going to be replaced and be able to turn out production in cornucopia terms, but you're not going to need to have people doing things within that system. It's going to be automated. Do you think there's, maybe it's far afield from the fact that you mentioned
Bucky Fuller
there's so
said
much,
this,
Bucky
but the whole
Fuller,
idea of like, but they don't do that. That's the whole thing of like a corporation can replace 100 people with this new technology, but now they just let the people go, as opposed to maybe taking some of that net profit that you benefit from that and train these people in other areas that can be capitalistic, I mean financially helpful to the corporation. There seems to be like a loss in the loopness of it.
Well, the input of human activity to the productive process becoming less and less versus on one side of the equation with everything else. Right. And we're going to be able to produce a great deal with the labor input. And by that, that's not just wheelbarrows and management differentiation. That's all human input to the production. You can set up automated systems, like you said, radio stations that broadcast to a nation. It's all done by one person pushing a button. It all just sets up and goes. And artificial intelligence, they can learn by themselves. They can displace the input of human beings to a process. And they used to have telephones. You remember Lily Tomlin did that thing on Saturday Night Live where she's sitting there and she'd have an emery board and she's connecting Mr. A to Mr. B. And now they got a switching system. It happens automatically. And it's tremendously effective and efficient, but you don't need the people to be doing things that they've had to do. You understand? I mean, that's a metaphor, and maybe it applies to communications as well, because, anyway, I don't know why I got off on that, but that's it. Why don't we talk a little bit, Louis, about Center for Media Arts? Do you mind? Because
Not at
you
all.
got over there. It was a wonderful institution.
It was a great place.
That's where you and I met.
It was one of the best jobs I ever had. I liked that job. That was it was a nutty, crazy place that was fun.
Yeah.
And I was there 6 years. I remember you came over, used the facilities for your talk shows, and I'd have students that would be crewing your shows and working on them. And
that worked well for me, because then it was possible to get a program done well and everything, and then we worked it out.
It worked out. It was a good group of people.
Yeah.
I've taught, when I bump into people that I worked with there years later, Ed Gigani, Artie Lincoln just went to see Ed Gigani last week.
Wait a minute,
He's in West Palm Beach now, teaching at a high school.
Artie Lincoln, he used to be
I
at
told
ABC.
him I'm doing this show today with you.
Oh, really? Yes,
well, he's at
give him my
ABC
best
now.
regards.
He does a technical directing.
Oh, he's doing technical directing at ABC. Okay,
but people I'll bump into.
What about Richard
Gary
Jenks?
Axelbank, you remember?
What about Richard Jenks?
I got
to try and run him down. He was so
Bill
great.
Citron comes in every year. You know Bill Citron?
We're going, this inside ball game.
What does this mean to these people?
This is a group like the Yankees in 1926 meeting in the ballpen or something. But there were all these people there, and it was really great.
It was great. It was
on 26th Street it was.
Yes.
Yeah. It was a private sector school.
Private sector school.
And you were teaching there? And
I was teaching and director of special project. I just saw Carolee Bardosh a couple of months ago. He did a book. He's teaching at NYU.
See?
And he's got a digital book out.
They unfortunately went out of business.
Yeah, I wasn't, because I left. I went to CBS as to work on I was working on a microwave truck, but I left there, and before that happened, but they started going into, I don't know all the whole things. I don't know if it was
from the business side,
the most above board. I don't know what was going on
Yeah,
there.
right.
But and then I was at Dowling College. They tried to unite with them for a while or something.
Abe
and it kind of
Hirschfeld came to visit, I remember. We're going to see if we get Abe. Abe says to me, Mr. Tanner, he said, if you work really good and work and keep your nose to the grindstone, there's a chance, an outside chance, but a chance you could one day be as good a person as me. I loved it.
Somebody told me, was there something, did he run for political office?
Yeah, he ran for Senate and
was there something
he was
that
a close friend of Robert Kennedy's.
The best politician money can buy?
Yeah,
was that a joke or
he
something
was really,
like
he was
that?
so quintessentially New York. But he would come there, he was interested in it. But it went out of business. But then now we do that here because we got people, we got hundreds of producers here, and they got it set up through this franchising process to teach the people how to make the equipment work, and so it's sort of filling that role.
I feel that it's much more organized. It's kind of like a flowing, more now, isn't it?
Well,
like
it's getting together, and things look good. You got about 3,000 of these access centers across the country, and they can get state-of-the-art equipment and everything, or similar to what the fellows in the networks use, and then they can set it all up for the people. So you got thousands of producers actually that can produce programs, and there's more and more capacity all the time, because of what's coming out of the computer labs.
How come sometimes when I'm watching like public access here in New York, I'll see a show from L.A., from California, so people can submit tapes or from different regions?
I'm not sure exactly. That's the administration here, but I think they set up a thing where their charge is to serve the people. Say here, this is Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Their charge is to serve the people of Manhattan, and the franchising is for that. So people first are Manhattan people, and then people maybe second from the boroughs, and then if somebody sends something in as filler, what they would call it, from L.A. or something, they can fit that in. They have a hierarchy of priority in terms of how they're going to put programs together.
Okay.
And then they haven't linked out. I think they're getting linked now through, like if you put something up on YouTube, it's available everywhere in the world now. So that cyber world's emerging.
Does YouTube censor?
I don't. Yeah, I think they will. They'll censor according to policy agreements and everything, and they can't do things that are illegal. They can't do probably some pornography or something. They have. I think they make sense. They seem very together to me.
They
the people
do.
at YouTube, and it's very intuitive. It works very easily.
Good word to intuitive.
And they're trying to. It's a major thing, and that's blending into the computer realm, which is blending with the media realm and everything like this. But this is unique because it serves and sets up a facility for the people, which is a pretty broad charge, everybody in Manhattan. And then the costs involved are not having to be within the market. They're done by a franchise agreement where the cable companies pay something to set these up. And we're in the middle of negotiation now. I mean, the mayor's office do it. I think you worked there for a while.
Yeah, the Department of Technology.
Information and
it was
Technology.
called something different, the Department of Information and Technology.
Yeah, I think it's called the Department of Telecommunications and Technology or something. I don't even know myself
75
what the
Park
two
Place? I don't know if that's still where they at.
I think so. It might be.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
it was Giuliani, I think, when I was working
Giuliani negotiated the crosswalks and that?
I bid and implemented the equipment for crosswalks.
Oh, did you?
Which was put out in Queens, QPTV.
That's where it was. Had big thoughts about what they were going to do, yeah.
But I don't know what happened to crosswalks.
I don't either.
Is that Bloomberg Television now?
No, Bloomberg Television is a commercial service that every investment banker has to have on his desk. Yeah. No,
I mean New York City TV. What is it? Channel 74? Is that?
Well, 75.
75,
is, CUNY. That's CUNY.
No, not CUNY. Not CUNY.
Yeah, they do.
There's a city station, isn't there?
Well, they have what they call PEG. It stands for Public, Educational, and Governmental. So there's some service back to the people for using the streets and that sort of thing. From the cable companies, pay back public to the society.
Okay.
And for educational institutions and for government, they've got the ability to reach people, and because they've got 500 channels on there now and everything. And then they got this one that's unique, public access, and that's for the people of Manhattan. Are set up this facility. We have 4 channels
34,
now,
35. 56, 57, that's all 4 of those.
Yeah, they got 4 channels. They're 23 hours a day. They're broadcasting. We've got thousands of producers and everything. And it's all available to the citizen, to the producer, for free. No cost, because the costs are met from this franchising fee that comes from the cable companies. And we're in process of negotiating, or the mayor's office, or Do It, is negotiating now. It'll probably culminate in the autumn for a 10-year template for public access.
And they support it. The mayor's office supports.
Yeah, I think. Well, there's different. Yeah, they do, and they're going to negotiate things for governmental aspects of the society, educational aspects, your universities, your school system, and that has the ability to communicate. And then this other thing is this public. That's kind of new, and since about 1970 for the people.
Right.
So anybody in Manhattan can come here and say, I want to be a producer, and become a producer, learn how to make the things work, get time on the air, and now they stream everything to the world.
That's the streaming, isn't it?
The streaming, they can stream the programming, and some people say, I want to get, what do you call it, prime time for New York? And New York is a big market, of course, and everything. But I said to some people, if you're playing it at an off hour, it's prime time somewhere in the planet.
Right.
And, it's like, I have a friend in Moscow. He watches the program 3 or 4 times a week, my program. On his computer, it's prime time, 8:30 in the evening, or whatever the time difference is in Moscow, because it's in real time. So somewhere it's prime time.
I like that. So, somewhere it's prime time.
That reaches out globally and so forth. So there's a lot going on.
Does Time Warner support public access, or is
well,
there a little bit?
Well, I think they do, and they seem to have accepted it, and there's public citizen, civil society implementation or into the process, and it's been generally accepted because these cable companies across the country, there's 3,000 of these access facilities, and they all do negotiate with them. And so that's something I'm investigating. You're familiar, you've gotten a little involved even on the ACAP, Association of Cable Access Producers, trying to understand, is that a matter of accepted law? And they seem to accept the idea that they've got to put, it's capped out about 5% in terms of the agreements that have been reached over time. But it seems to me it's accepted in place, and it's very unique, the public access, where you're making this, it's the only thing in community. CBS had no such obligation to set up production capability for the people of New York to make programs to relate to CBS.
Right.
Or none of the radio or carrier.
Radio doesn't have that.
Nobody has. Only
PBS, I mean, they have these drives where they raise money, but they don't have, like, MNN can't have pledge drives or anything like that.
Well, that kind of, it's unique into communication. Nothing in communications ever had that obligation between the private sector and the government.
I never thought it,
The private sector makes money and the government taxes and spends or regulates.
Yeah.
And that's where everything's all formulated in that dialectic. Public access is unique from the civil society, and it's really very important. I really like it. And so we got this developed here.
When is the 12-year contract that you were talking about coming up?
It's going to be negotiated. No, it's being negotiated by the autumn. It's September, October, something like that of this year. It will be for 10 years out, or 10 or 12 years out. They'll set a pattern of what amount of gross revenue will be coming from them, and the cable companies are making a great deal of money now.
It's pretty well ensconced, though, right?
That's what I hope so. I think that it is. It's like I had a program with our Director of External Affairs here, and I said, we, the men of the United States of America, had not had the wisdom to give the distaff or the women or the female side of our society the right to vote. And a lot of people say, that was 1920, they finally got the right to vote.
Right.
And a lot of people would say, well, everything's been screwed up since then. Let's take the vote away from the women.
Right.
I don't think they'd have a very good chance. Or let's go back to chattel slavery. They used to have chattel slavery. I don't think they got a very good chance. So the progress, I think it's more or less in that sense.
That's a good thing then.
But what does make it that way?
The momentum is so moving.
And it's very good. One of the most popular things from a PR sense for cable industry, which is very big, 85% of the program people get is cable, is C-SPAN. That's great PR for them. And the public access for a relatively small amount is probably, particularly if it's really emphasized and supported and let people know about it, is probably really, really good PR for the people in the cable industry.
Yes, I think it's very good PR
It's
for
so
them.
Democratic.
Yeah.
It's so democratic. You open to anybody. They can say anything and everything. So we're sold on it here, and I think it's and I think the ACAP is going to become an important institution because there isn't any representation of the people who are actually doing the programming. Within the industry, it's all self-selected industry representatives and everything. But anyway, there's all of that going on, and I'm so glad to have been able to welcome you to a program to talk about these matters. Now, on the other side, if we could, you do a thing, you've got a roll-in that you brought in.
Yeah, I brought 3 tapes that I did.
We're going to show a clip from one of them. Is that it?
Yeah, we're going to show one clip. I got 3 tapes.
Are they going to try and show them all?
Well, it's a 6.5-minute piece.
Total.
It's got 3 pieces, and we could just roll
All
it
in
and
one.
show
No,
it.
no, no. Set it up a little bit. Set it up a little bit.
Well,
because this is another side of Louis Grenier in a way, because this is like filmmaking.
Right.
And you're doing all the technical thing. We're talking about the industry, but could you share a little bit, set it up, as they say?
Well, the first piece was one that I shot years ago on littering, and I just went back and reshot B-roll for it, and put that into tape. The second one is a piece I did a couple weeks ago. It's a very recent piece, and the third one is a piece I did last year, which a car out in front of my apartment on 85th Street. That I just did the visuals and had used Nat Sound. And
okay. Now, why were you doing this? What is
I enjoy doing it.
Is there a bit of the actor in you?
Yes.
Is it a bit of the on-camera person?
Yes, it is.
Idea of the human condition or something?
Well, I enjoy.
Other than
I kind of like
working.
performing, and I also like. I mean, the third one is really concentrates on visuals with the audio, and it's how I relax. It's actually how I relax. It's what I do. It's my outside. You know, you need a balance in life, and this kind of like adds the balance.
Yeah, it's a thing you would really like to do.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be good if everybody could be doing the things they like to do?
Wouldn't that be
And maybe
nice?
if Mr. Keynes' vision is one, we're going to get a thing where people are going to be, let's say, grandchildren of ours or something, but they're actually going to be affluently or comfortably leisured in terms of the way life is constructed. They're not going to have to be so concentrated on how they're going to earn bread to eat, as they are now and have been historically, so that there's going to be leisure, and there's going to be a thing where people will come in and do a thing something like what you're doing here. It doesn't relate to making a living or anything like that. It's separate. So
they're divorced. It's like you make
a lot of room for public access mentality to be characteristic of communication in a way that it's a little bit difficult for a lot of people to see now, because we
sounds
haven't got
like utopia.
Well, it would be that kind of thing. We haven't got an appropriate undergrounding policy for economic theory for a leisured and affluent world, because everything's been scarce and very
Well,
tight.
I know, you know, I need to learn a little bit. I know you're into the binary economics.
Well, I think that's
which
one
I don't know.
the thing of binary economics is a way to distribute ownership of corporate assets, or of assets which are responsible for production, as a way, rather than just labor. Because the only thing even Mr. Obama was progressive, is just saying, we're going to create jobs for people. You can create jobs for people pulling stones, making a pyramid. You can create jobs and distribute income by labor, but the labor is less relevant to production. So we're going to need an alternate way to distribute income that relates to the ownership or the capital accumulation that happens with the capitalist system. But that's another issue. But this is Citizen Grenier, who's doing what he wants to do. There could be other people doing things like gardening and all kinds of things that they want to do, and they don't have to be looking to the labor aspect.
But it's also good to, do you think it's good to do some things you don't want to do?
Well, I don't know about that.
Like
There's a lot of people, I used to have sergeants in the Army who I used to convince them we should try to do things democratically.
Right.
They didn't want to hear that. They just said, get in line.
Right.
And the
well, in Zen, you know, in Zen, the whole thing of doing a task, like, it's not always I want to do this thing instead of that thing. Yeah. You do what's in front of you at hand at the moment,
there could be
and enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, there can be
I wrestle with that kind of...
There are arguments that can be made philosophically on that. But all of our institutions now, they have the work ethic and all these kind of things, and it's really good to get out there and, you know, work hard and everything. And I noticed that the people who have all the ownership are just able to just be very, very comfortable on their yachts, and they don't have to do diddly.
Right.
They own the capital. That should be shared out and shared out to greater, and it may be necessary. But that's getting far afield. That's getting into politics and Bucky Fuller and transcending scarcity and all these kind of things. But anyway, these things, this setup. So this is a thing you're doing, you know, this thing we're going to play now.
Right.
We better get it
Let's just show it,
run out of time. So we're talking with Louis Grenier, and let's run that tape now then, please. Okay, yeah, go to the tape then, please. Well, we're going to, they're coming back up on us. Here we go. And could you pump the sound in? great communication.
Yeah.
7.
Our mics are closed, right?
I hope so.
Hey, why are you throwing an apple rind into the street? It's okay. It's organic. This is my city. It's my home. You throw garbage in this city on 29th Street, wherever you are, you're littering my room, you know? And we've done everything. There's ads on TV. Please don't litter. I've tried to help people. I was in a subway. A woman dropped a little packet. I went and picked it up, showed it to her. I smiled, and I threw it away for her to try to set the example. None of that stuff seems to work. So I've got my own ploy. The next guy that I see littering, I shoot.
Don't put that there. Okay, something just happened which I can't really figure out, but I kind of got a grasp of it, but I'm not sure. Here's the thing. Sometimes when I'm dressed the dirtiest, the filthiest, I haven't showered for a couple of days, I got a growth hair, a beard like I got now, and I just threw on this shirt because I went to get a haircut on 23rd Street, so I just got up on a Saturday, threw on anything that was around because I'm going to go get a haircut because I don't want to come back and take a shower anyways, right? So it doesn't matter. And once I was in the neighborhood, there was a woman I wanted to see, so I had her number, but I never met her. Okay, so I called her up, and I thought as I'm walking to meet her, oh my God, I'm not prepared. I'm not shaven. I just have, look at this cruddy shirt with this old shirt. It's frayed here at the collar. And I look kind of grubby and messy. And then I thought, but you know what? Sometimes that's the best way to meet someone. That happened once before when I was on the subway years ago when I was really grungy. And I just had a conversation with a woman and went really well. And we, it went really well. And sometimes, like, if I knew I was going to go see this woman on Saturday, I would have showered and shaved and made some decisions about what I'm going to wear. And in some way, that might actually detract or hurt my goal of wanting to be with her or get her. Now, I don't know what's going on here, but anyways, this encounter I had with this woman really went well. And how could that be? I'm not, and I even brought that up to her. I even said to her, you know, if I knew I was going to see you, I would have been dressed up more and shaved and everything. And she even agreed. She said, I know what you mean. Sometimes when I'm prepared to meet somebody, I really get freshened up or look good. But it seems to have a negative effect. Now, I don't know what this is. Are you more natural, or are you not on edge, and you don't feel like it's an audition? But what can we learn from this? And it's kind of like, okay, so then you try to do this. Then you try to, like, okay, in the future, if I know I'm going to go meet someone, I'm going to purposely not shower or shave or put on good clothes because, that's the trick. That's the formula. Maybe it'll work. But when you do it that way, it doesn't work. That's it.
Okay, that was good. That was really that's three things. You done a number of these are like vignettes. They're like little short
vignettes,
stories.
yeah. Shorts.
Yeah.
I like the short format.
Do you have it in mind, but you go out and set up and get certain things, or does it just happen serendipitously, or how do you put these? And how many do you have in the over?
I have about over 60 videos.
Of these
I got 4 on YouTube. I've shown a few on yours.
Okay.
And I'm working to get a show together for M&N.
Yeah, are you really? Oh,
yeah.
good. By all means, come aboard,
I'm so
young
procrastinating about this.
No,
yeah.
do it. Let's make sure you got all the papers and everything, and do it.
I got it.
It's a little bit. It takes a month or two, right?
To
become a producer. You become.
Well,
a
I
producer.
want to do a 38.
The
I want to get a 28-minute.
Yes.
Editing takes a lot. For me, I don't know. Editing takes a lot of time. It's intensive.
Oh, we would love to
Your
have
show
you on
is good because you do this whole.
Well, I just do it full real time.
And you got a package after 58 minutes. You got your show.
Yeah. Been doing this since 1970.
You've been what?
About 1970 got started. Yeah, I've been the oldest running public access program in the country is this one.
You know,
so
at your website, the lists of people that you've had on.
We've done a lot.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, but it's all just talk. All you have to do is talk. It's really easy. The editing and the careful editing and putting these together.
Well, two different animals.
But it would be wonderful, and I want to just take extra time here to encourage you. We want to make sure you got all the forms and everything you need to become a producer.
That's why I'm coming.
That's
why I'm coming to these ACAP meetings.
Okay,
to give myself a kick in the butt.
Absolutely. Not only you as a person who wants to get involved in it, but also the citizens should be. Citizens, what do you call them, progressive or whatever, should be interested in this because it's so democratic and it's so unique. And it's the thing like a civil interest, a lot of NGO type mentality and people of the society, because I think their day is coming where you're going to be able to have the input of the people in a way that we haven't had historically. It's all been leaders. And I think that's changing. So I think the ACAP and the public access, wonderful. I'm happy to hear you're thinking of becoming a producer. You have all this equipment. You have this kind of equipment all around you all day at ABC, I guess.
Yeah, but that's...
You can't use it over there?
Well, that's separate than what... I mean, I have a little digital camera.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I have, in my home studio, I have a nonlinear editing system.
You have Final Cut
Pro, and I use, I have a Mac.
You have a Mac, yeah. Well, you're all ready to go.
A mic. That's all you really need.
Yeah,
That's and time and energy and labor and input and time and energy is a big thing.
A sense of humor and a thing. And these are like little short stories and vignettes.
Yeah.
People can do a thing like that thing you did about grungy.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah, I mean
that was.
That's
really
my
good.
most recent piece. That was like 2 weeks ago, and I want to do more like that kind of thing where I'm
sort
into
like
now
Robert
recording.
Benchley Russell Baker or something.
Benchley, I loved.
Wonderful. That's audio video, but and Baker could write like a dream if you could just take those things and do it.
We all have that, there's like a mode of you're in throughout your day where you have moments in time or snippets that if you just concentrate on them and then you have to do something with it.
Yeah, and it's when a moment
there's
comes.
Execution. You have to execute it.
At least it's easy. You just click the button, you're executing. But then the thing is, there are moments when you're making connections, and it's called creativity.
Yes.
And there's moments of creativity that we can now capture that we had no chance of doing historically, even if you have to sit down and write it out. But capturing it in the moment, it's an art form that's probably a lot of people are going to, and a way to communicate really important ideas like, is it better to be grungy? But I mean, it's also funny, and it's always good to have humor, right?
Yes, that's a release of tension, right?
I really do. Well, yeah, but it's also illustrating the human condition. It's a great way to get people's attention in that. And then it would be wonderful for you to become a producer.
In heaven, there is no comedy or art. Did you know?
I didn't know that. Yeah,
I read that somewhere, and I thought, because if in a perfect existence, you'd have no need.
Well, I've thought along those lines. And in fact, I think, what's the point of becoming president? If you're going to, like Mr. Obama's running now, if you're going to become president, it's no good to be set up as a president within a universe that's not set up right. I mean, they got things in the universe where it's set up. So I'm thinking God, and God should not be just there in the sky, and setting things up. God should be elected. We should elect God, okay? We could have a democratic process instead of just one who's plunked there in terms of the physics of reality and so on. And I was thinking of running for God, because then instead of, you could set up the universe right, and I would be soliciting your vote, okay? And one of my first planks in the vote, in my platform for God, to set up the universe right, not just the mere politics, but the universe. Hot fudge sundaes are really, really good for you, and they give you everything you need, and that with no exertion at all on your part, no exertion, no running or anything, they will result in washboard abs. I think I would get a lot of votes on that. That would be plank number one. But you see, we could set the universe up right? Why do all the things that taste terrible, except there are people who want to say those things that taste good are good for you, and things that are good for you, but I'm glad you brought that up. But now you got a godlike capacity to put television together, and I'd wonder if you could get involved over here. It's a great group of people. I'm really happy to hear that. The world.
Do you ever edit your? Do you?
No, I don't.
Why
even,
do you?
I don't want,
do you like the purity of it? What's the deal?
I have no idea. It's just get it done and do it and
package it and.
Yeah, that's all. And it's spontaneous as it is. So.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, whatever is there is spontaneous, and then you talk. Now we're going to be talking about Middle Eastern peace in an hour after you.
Have you had weird moments on your show? Does anything stick out to mind of something?
Oh, I don't know what.
Did you ever have anything like that?
I don't.